She wasn't on the list. That's what the HOA president said, standing there with her iPad tapping it like a cashier, refusing a coupon while my wife was dying 20 feet away behind a locked gate. The ambulance lights flashed red against the metal sirens, screaming paramedics shouting through the bars, and this woman just said, "Emergency access requires 72-hour notice, Mr. Dorn." 72 hours. My wife didn't have 70 more seconds. That was the moment something inside me broke and something else woke up. My name's Cavell Dorn. 10 years ago, I helped design emergency access protocols for Homeland Defense systems meant to save lives when seconds mattered. I retired thinking I'd left all that behind. My wife Thessa and I bought a small house in a desert community called HOA Crest. It looked perfect: quiet streets, clean yards, gated safety. I thought I was buying peace. Turns out I was buying control, the kind that kills quietly. Thessa had heart problems. Fragile remission, the doctor said, manageable with oxygen, rest, and calm. She loved the desert air, said it helped her sleep. I ran emergency drills just in case. We were cautious but never afraid. Until that morning. 8:07 a.m. She collapsed in the kitchen. I called 911 immediately. The response time was fast: 4 minutes. I thought we were safe. But when the ambulance reached the southern gate, the one closest to our home, it stopped. Wouldn't open. I ran outside, barefoot, yelling through the fence at the paramedics. They shouted back, "We can't get in. It's locked." Then she arrived. Merle Vaughn, president of the HOA board. Perfect hair, gold nameplate, holding that damn iPad. Calm as stone. "You know the rules, Mr. Dorn," she said. "All emergency access must be scheduled in advance." I couldn't speak. My mouth went dry from fury, not fear. I told her my wife was dying on the other side. She brushed imaginary lint off her blazer and said, "Don't make this dramatic. Your non-compliance isn't our emergency." By the time the sheriff cut through the chain with bolt cutters, it had been 12 minutes. Thessa had been without oxygen for 5. They got her pulse back for a moment in the ambulance, but her eyes never refocused. By the time they reached the hospital, she was gone. Merle didn't blink. She didn't even offer a sorry, just muttered something about liability and walked away. 2 days after the funeral, I got a letter. Glossy envelope, HOA seal shimmering in the sunlight. Violation 17B, harassment of board member during emergency response. Fine $350. Then 2 more unauthorized drone usage, coordination of non-compliant emergency vehicle. They fined me for calling an ambulance. I didn't cry. I didn't even curse. I pinned the letters to the fridge with an old emergency magnet and stared at them. Somewhere between disbelief and rage, a thought hit me. The gate wasn't legal. I'd written the guidelines years ago. I knew the law. Every emergency gate required an override panel, fire department clearance, dual authentication from the city. That gate had none of it. So I walked the perimeter that night. No phone, no camera, just my eyes. The southern gate was welded shut. Sensor-removed wires, capped metal plate covering the access panel. No inspection tag, no compliance code. It wasn't a malfunction, it was concealment. The next morning, one of my neighbors, an older widow named Mrs. Ulrich, whispered to me while watering her plants. "They made the paramedics wait when my husband had his stroke," she said. 5 minutes at the gate. He was gone before they reached the porch. Then she turned off the hose and went inside, door clicking shut behind her. It wasn't just my wife. This place was a death trap wrapped in HOA paperwork. I started digging. I pulled public infrastructure files at the city office, dusty binders, scanned PDFs, and there it was, the official waiver for that gate, signed by a man who hadn't lived in the state for 6 years. Forged signature, outdated form, no city stamp. My hands trembled, not from grief this time, but from cold, focused anger. I called the only person I could trust. "Tavian," I said. "You still handle infrastructure violations?" He paused. "Yeah. Why?" "Because you're going to want to see what HOA Crest has been hiding. Tavian's my son. He works in federal infrastructure enforcement, think FBI, but for critical systems." We hadn't talked much since I retired. He'd grown tired of hearing about my paranoia, my constant drills. But this time he listened. Meanwhile, Merle doubled down. Another letter arrived, notice of intent to sue. defamation, trespass, unauthorized surveillance. She even changed the HOA's name to Neighborhood Governance Council. It sounded more official, but it was the same snake, just with better branding. I almost gave up then. I sat in my garage surrounded by boxes of old manuals and regulations, staring at the photo of Thessa taped to the wall. For a minute I thought maybe I was losing it. Maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe this wasn't about justice. Maybe it was just grief clawing for something to blame. Then I saw her handwriting on the back of that photo. Just 2 words she'd written years ago. Keep fighting. So I did. A few nights later, one of the board members, Orrin Blythe, found me. Nervous guy, looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. "I saw your photo," he said quietly. "The one of the removed panel. She told us to hide it, said it was for privacy." I asked him if he knew about the fake waiver. He nodded, eyes on the ground. "She gave it to me, told me it was cleared by Homeland. I sent it because she said she could revoke my home lease if I didn't." Then he handed me a flash drive. I kept everything he said, meeting minutes, drafts, even audio. When I played the recording that night, I heard Merle's voice, calm and smug. "We'll call it a privacy measure. We'll bury the override code until next term. No one audits a gate unless someone dies, and if that happens, we'll have rewritten the story by then." That was the line that turned my grief into purpose. I sent the file to Tavian with no message, just the evidence. An hour later he replied, "We're in." The next morning he showed up at my door, black satchel, quiet eyes, no small talk. "Walk me through it," he said. We covered my living room table with documents, the fake waiver photos of the welded gate, Orrin's confession, the audio file. Tavian listened in silence, jaw tight. "They didn't just break the law," he said finally. "They obstructed emergency response. That's federal." We brought Orrin in that afternoon. He gave a full recorded statement admitting he'd transmitted the forged document under pressure, confirming Merle's instructions to create delay loops for non-compliant residents. Every word tightened the noose. Tavian built a timeline color-coded, meticulous. Blue pins for verified evidence, red for forgery, yellow for HOA actions without oversight. The wall looked like a map of rot spreading through the neighborhood. Then he said, "We start with their insurance. Fraud voids liability. Once that happens, the whole board turns on itself." So I drafted a claim to the HOA's insurer. No emotion, just facts, emergency obstruction, fatality, attached documentation. I sent it. Within hours, a red banner appeared on the HOA's private site. "Insurance review pending. Emergency claims suspended." That was the first crack. Merle panicked. She called an emergency board meeting, told her members to disable access to internal files and align the narrative. Orrin called us immediately. Tavian forwarded the info to his federal contact. By evening, a federal hold was placed on the HOA's storage facility. Agents seized their computers before anyone could destroy them. The next day, the vendor hosting the HOA's private server quietly handed over a log file Tavian had requested. It showed every admin action timestamped, and there it was. User M. Vaughn admin manual override gate lockdown, 08:14 a.m., the exact minute after I called 911. She hadn't just ignored procedure, she'd locked the gate herself. When Tavian read that line, he didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, "We move tomorrow." The HOA meeting that morning looked like any other rows of folding chairs, retirees clutching coffee cups. Merle stood in front, clipboard in hand, smiling that brittle smile. "This is not a trial," she said into the mic. "This is a standard community session." But as she spoke, I saw them, 2 plainclothes agents standing at the side, arms crossed. Behind them, a city official holding a sealed folder with a gold stamp. And at the end of the row, my son. When she tried to skip the open forum, the city clerk interrupted her. "Under Section 12, public comment is mandatory with more than 10 residents present." Merle's smile froze. I stood up. My voice was steady. "My name is Cavell Dorn. On July 18th, my wife suffered cardiac arrest. The ambulance arrived in 4 minutes but was held outside the southern gate for nearly 10. That delay was not accidental, it was ordered." The crowd murmured. Merle tried to interrupt, but I kept going. That gate had no override, no emergency sensor welded shut in violation of city and federal law. The waiver used to justify it was forged. The signer hadn't lived here in years. The fire department rep stepped forward. "We confirm repeated delays at that location. It fails all compliance standards." Merle's face drained of color. "This is a smear campaign," she snapped. "He's grieving. He's unstable." Then Tavian stepped forward, voice cold and professional. "Special Agent Tavian Dorn, Critical Infrastructure Protection. We have evidence of forged municipal documents, obstruction of emergency services, and a server log showing manual override of that gate by President Merle Vaughn at the time of the incident." He handed the folder to the clerk. Silence swallowed the courtyard. Merle stammered, "You have no right." But Tavian continued unfazed. "Effective immediately, all board infrastructure activity is frozen under federal investigation." Someone gasped. Others whispered. I watched her fingers tighten around her clipboard, her last shield, and for a moment I thought she might try to deny it again. But then she saw the two agents step closer. She didn't say another word. 3 weeks later, a city crew arrived at dawn. No announcement, no ceremony, just the grinding sound of saws cutting through steel. The southern gate came down piece by piece, rusted bolts falling into the gravel like punctuation marks on a long, ugly sentence. No one cheered, no one spoke, we just watched. Merle Vaughn was indicted 2 days before that. Federal obstruction, falsified documents, tampering with public safety systems. Her allies resigned quietly, their smiles gone, their homes up for sale. Orrin stayed. He didn't ask forgiveness, and I didn't offer it. But when the city posted the new emergency access plan, he was the first to sign. They replaced the gate with an open lane painted red, solar lit, a small plaque at the base that reads, "This lane stays open, always." Beneath it another line, "Unrestricted access saves lives." I built a wooden bench for Thessa, placed it near the curb. No plaque, no flowers, just presence. When Tavian left town, he said, "You gave her more than most husbands ever could." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Now I walk that trail every evening. The air's quiet again, different this time. Not peaceful. Aware. Neighbors nod. Some look away. That's fine. What matters is that no one here will ever wait behind a locked gate again. A woman once believed her clipboard gave her power over life and death. She was wrong, because no matter how many gates they build, justice always finds a way through.